All right, let's dive in. You guys sent us a ton of stuff about AI this week. Articles, research papers, even some forum discussions.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with, isn't it?
It really is. So for this deep dive, we're going to tackle the big question. What are the standout AI projects and tools right now?
Okay, good question. From what I've seen, we've got a pretty good list. We should definitely start with DeepSeek V3. It's this new Chinese-developed model, and people are really taking notice.
DeepSeek V3. Yeah, that one caught my eye too. What's so special about it?
Well, first off, it's massive. It's got 671 billion parameters. And get this, it was trained on 15 trillion tokens.
Well, imagine processing the entire Library of Congress hundreds of times over.
Wow, that's hard to even picture. But are those just vanity stats?
No, no, not at all. It's actually performing on par with some of the biggest names out there, like GPT-4 and Claude. But here's the picker. They did it for a fraction of the cost.
Okay, now that's interesting. How much are we talking?
Only $5.5 million to train it. It's way less than what we're used to seeing. That's impressive. I bet some people are saying this means China's catching up in the AI race.
You know, I've definitely seen that sentiment online, and honestly, DeepSeek V3's performance is undeniable, but the AI landscape is so complex, it's not really a race with a finish line, you know?
That's true. More like an ecosystem, right? Constantly evolving. But still, this DeepSeek V3 is definitely shaking things up.
Yeah.
And not just because of its size and cost. I was reading about the multi-token prediction, or MTP, technique they're using.
Ah, yes, MTP. It's pretty innovative. See, typically language models predict text one token at a time. It's slow going, right? But MTP lets DeepSeek predict multiple tokens at once.
So it's not just generating one word at a time, it's doing whole phrases.
Exactly. It's like writing whole sentences or even paragraphs all at once. That's a big reason why it's so efficient.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
But wouldn't that mess with accuracy?
Well, the way it works, it actually uses information from its previous predictions to inform the next ones. So it's kind of like having a really good sense of how a story is going to unfold and being able to predict the next few sentences.
I see. So speaking of speed and efficiency, this reminds me of another project you sent me info on. OpenAI's O1 model. It's being looked at for financial trading. Talk about high stakes.
Yeah, that's a whole other world. But the financial markets move so fast, some people are convinced that O1 can actually beat traditional trading models.
Well, what's the evidence?
One source even said it could accurately predict 5% drops in the SPY, you know, that big stock market index, going all the way back to 2000.
Whoa. That's incredibly specific. Kind of scary,
Oh,
actually.
no, right. I mean, what happens to human traders if an AI can predict the market that well?
Exactly. Big questions there. I bet not everyone's on board with this.
Oh, absolutely not. There's a lot of skepticism around AI and finance. Some people argue the market's just too unpredictable, even for AI. Others think it's just the beginning of a huge change.
I guess it's a debate about whether the market's truly predictable at all.
Yeah, and then there are the ethical issues too, like data leakage. If an AI is trained on confidential financial data, how do we know it's not going to exploit that?
It's like giving someone the answers to a test before they take it.
Right. And then you have the efficient market hypothesis. That theory says stock prices already reflect all available information, so even the best AI might struggle to find an edge.
So we have this powerful tool, but also all these ethical concerns about how to use it. I don't think anyone has the answer yet.
I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Speaking of powerful tools, though, there's another one that's getting a lot of attention. Llama Index. It seems to be really popular among people who work with large language models.
Llama Index. Okay. I've seen that name pop up a lot. People seem especially excited about something called the document context extractor.
Right. Well, the document context extractor is all about reducing costs, and who doesn't want that? Some people are saying it cut their expenses by half.
Wow, 50%. How does it do that?
Basically, it uses batch processing. Instead of running Python scripts all the time and racking up costs, you can process stuff offline and check it later.
Sort of like setting your laundry to run overnight when energy's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about optimizing those resources. And one source had this really cool example of using Llama Index to generate reports from research papers.
Wait, like automatically?
Yeah. You feed it some research papers, give it a template, and it spits out a report with all the key findings.
That'll be so useful for anyone who deals with a lot of research.
Right. Scientists, journalists, academics, think of all the time it would save.
It's like having an AI research assistant who never gets tired of reading dense papers.
Exactly. And it shows how AI is becoming about more than just words. It's about understanding meaning and information.
That's when things get really interesting. And actually, it reminds me of another tool that's all about creative applications. Notebook LM,
Oh yeah, Notebook LM. People are doing some wild things with it, generating podcasts, summarizing long articles, even using it for their tabletop role-playing games.
That's the one that stood out to me. Imagine an AI that makes a podcast from the Google News headlines every day, like a funny news roundup.
That'd be pretty entertaining, and it shows how AI can make information fun and engaging. It could even tailor the delivery to your personality and sense of humor.
No more boring news,
Yeah.
just the facts with jokes.
Exactly. And some people are using it to come up with storylines and characters for their role-playing games.
That's awesome. It's like an AI dungeon master. Okay, so we've got tools that are good at language, but what about visuals? That brings us to Unsloth AI and their work with visual reasoning. Their QBQ72B model is getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, they're doing great work. QBQ72B is scoring really well on benchmarks, showing it can really understand visual information.
Hold on, before we go further, could you explain visual reasoning for anyone who's not familiar?
Sure. It's basically the ability to understand what you see in an image, not just recognizing objects, but the relationships between them. Like understanding a cat chasing a mouse means something's going on there.
Oh, I get it. It's not just seeing, it's understanding the meaning.
Exactly, and QBQ72B is getting really good at those complex tasks.
That's impressive. What's Unsloth AI hoping to do with it?
Well, one of their big goals is making these large language models more accessible. They want people to be able to fine-tune these models and use them even if they don't have super powerful computers.
So they're trying to make AI more democratic, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. They believe that these tools shouldn't just be for a select few, they should be for everyone. And actually, that's something we've seen with a lot of these projects.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see that trend.
It is. Making AI more accessible is crucial if it's going to benefit everyone.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have. But of course, with all this power comes responsibility. We need to talk about the ethical side of things, too.
You're right, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some serious questions to consider.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll dive into after a quick break.
So we were just talking about all the amazing things AI can do, but we have to talk about the potential downsides too.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if things go wrong? Right, it's not all fun and games. I mean, you sent over some sources that were pretty worried about the ethical side of AI, especially with these massive language models trained on huge data sets.
Yeah, and one of the biggest concerns is bias. If the data used to train these models is biased, the AI is going to be biased too.
Makes sense.
Mm.
It's like that saying, garbage in, garbage out. So what are people specifically worried about?
Well, imagine an AI that's supposed to help with hiring decisions, but it was trained on data that reflects existing prejudices.
Oh, that's bad. The AI could end up recommending people based on things like race or gender instead of actual qualifications.
Exactly. And that's just one example. It's why it's so important to make sure the data used to train these models is as fair and representative as possible.
But even then, I imagine it's tough to completely eliminate bias. It's so ingrained in our society.
It is. It's like trying to get rid of a stain that's been there forever. You might be able to lighten it, but it's never truly gone.
Great analogy. So it sounds like mitigating bias is a constant effort, not a one-time fix.
Definitely. It takes ongoing research and development to come up with ways to keep these systems in check.
And it can't just be computer scientists working on this, right? You need people from different fields to weigh in.
Absolutely. You need ethicists, social scientists, even experts from the fields where these models are being used. It's like building a house, you need more than just a carpenter to make sure it's safe and functional.
I like that. So bias is a big issue, but there's another one that comes up a lot, transparency, or rather the lack of it.
Right. As AI gets more complex, it becomes harder to understand how it makes decisions.
It's like trusting your GPS to get you somewhere, but having no idea how it chose the route.
Exactly. And that lack of transparency can create distrust, especially in sensitive areas like healthcare or criminal justice.
Yeah, those are high stakes. You don't want to just blindly trust a machine with that kind of power.
Exactly. That's why there's this push for what's called explainable AI.
Explainable AI. So it's not just about getting the right answer, it's about understanding why the AI gave that answer.
Precisely. We need systems that can explain their reasoning in a way that humans can understand. That's how we build trust.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about some of the challenges, but your sources also seemed pretty optimistic about AI's potential for good, too.
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of excitement. People are starting to see how AI can really make a difference in things like healthcare and education.
You know what really stood out to me? The idea of using AI for personalized education. Like, imagine every student having a virtual tutor that adapts to their learning style.
I know, right? That's amazing. It could help level the playing field, making sure everyone has the support they need to succeed.
It's like a personal trainer for your brain, helping you identify your strengths and weaknesses.
And in healthcare, it could help doctors diagnose diseases earlier, develop new treatments, and even streamline things on the administrative side.
It's pretty incredible to think about how AI could help us solve some of the biggest problems we face.
It is. But we also have to remember that AI is a tool. It can be used for good or bad, depending on who's wielding it.
Well said. We have to be careful and make sure it's used responsibly.
Exactly. Now, going back to something we talked about before, do you think the open source nature of a lot of these AI tools is a good thing or a bad thing for ethical AI?
That's a great question. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Mm,
On the one hand, open source means more people can look at the code and make sure it's not doing anything shady.
right. It's like having a public peer review process, which is great for accountability, and it can also lead to more collaboration and innovation.
But the flip side is that open source also makes these powerful tools available to people who might want to misuse them.
That's true. It's like giving everyone access to a nuclear reactor without any safety protocols. There needs to be a balance.
So it sounds like responsible disclosure and ethical guidelines are crucial for open source AI to work.
Absolutely. And I think overall, the benefits of open source outweigh the risks. It promotes transparency, collaboration, and ultimately helps ensure that AI is used for good.
It's about making sure everyone benefits from this technology.
Right. It's about democratizing AI.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this segment. It's clear that AI has amazing potential, but we need to be thoughtful about how we use it.
Definitely. We have to keep asking the tough questions and having these conversations.
It's encouraging to see that people are thinking about the ethical implications.
It shows that we're taking this seriously. And the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're all shaping together.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up completely, I'm curious, what were some of the most surprising or thought-provoking things you learned from all these sources?
Oh, there were a few things that really stood out, but I think I'll save those for after a quick break.
All right, we're back. We've covered so much ground already, talking about all these cool AI projects and the ethics of it all.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I'm ready to hear those surprising insights you mentioned before the break.
Okay, well, one thing that really struck me was how AI is changing the way we think about work and play. Remember we talked about Notebook LM being used for podcasts and even role-playing games?
Yeah, AI isn't just about productivity anymore. It's becoming part of our leisure time, too.
It makes you wonder, what if AI could help you write a song or even create a video game? The possibilities are kind of mind-blowing.
I know. It makes you wonder if AI will enhance our creativity or maybe even make us more passive. Like, will we just consume AI-generated content instead of creating our own?
That's a good point. I think it's all about finding the right balance. Using AI as a tool to boost our creativity, not replace it.
I agree. It's about making sure we're still the ones in control, expressing ourselves.
Another thing that really hit me was how fast AI is evolving. It seems like every week there's a new breakthrough.
It really is incredible. The progress is exponential. Who knows what AI will be able to do a few years from now?
It's exciting, but also a little scary. It's hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But at the end of the day, AI is a human creation. It's driven by our curiosity and desire to solve problems.
That's true. And that brings me to another big takeaway, the importance of making AI accessible to everyone, like unsloth AI, making those tools that let people run those big language models on regular computers.
Right, that's so important. AI shouldn't just be for the tech elite. If it's going to change the world, everyone needs to be a part of it.
Exactly. AI has the potential to revolutionize everything, but only if we all have a chance to participate.
I couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up our AI deep dive, I'm feeling a mix of awe and, I guess, cautious optimism.
I think that's the right way to feel. What we've seen today is amazing, but we need to be thoughtful about how we move forward.
We have to keep asking the tough questions, debating the ethics, and working together to make sure AI is used for good.
Exactly. We need to make sure AI empowers us to solve problems, be more creative, and ultimately make the world a better place.
Well said. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have. But the conversation definitely doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the world of AI.
And if you ever find yourself drowning in information, you know where to find us. We'll help you sort through it all and find those golden nuggets of knowledge.
Until next time.